Good afternoon and welcome to the last meeting of May. It's hard to believe that it's almost June. Christmas will be here before you know it. Don't say that. We have a few people in the audience tonight, hopefully a few more that are watching us on our Electric City television. I will lead us in invocation tonight, and the respects to the flag will be led by Councilman Luis Martinez. Please rise. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings that you bestowed upon our city, our community. We ask that you always keep our citizens under your watchful eye to protect those that work at our organization, that face the public, police, fire, all our workers, public works, building codes, all those that are out in the community, that you have them return safely to their homes each day. We ask that you keep your wise hand on this council as we make decisions that affect our community. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes of our May 9th meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Not hearing any, do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
I have first by Mr. Newton, second by the Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of May 9th pass unanimously. We have three items of old business, and the first item is request second reading of ordinance 22-08 to rezone a portion of 2503 North Main Street from R10 Single Family Residential to NC Neighborhood Commercial. Mr. McEwen.
Mayor and Council, thank you. We had some discussion on this item last time, and we do have an update for you. Mr. Maurice McKenzie is going to go over the update and the overall summary as well for the public. Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you. Again, this is coming to you tonight for second reading. This regards to 2503 North Main Street. The applicant is requesting to rezone the back portion of this property, the NC Neighborhood Commercial, in order for it to be consistent with the front part, which is about 1.12 acres, to make it consistent. The piece we're talking about is 0.39 acres. If you drive by there, it looks like it's one piece of land, but it just happens to be split into two. They are requesting the rezoning so they can move forward with constructing a financial institution on the property. And if you look at that general area, there are several zoning classifications around there. You have neighborhood commercial, you have R10 single family residential, neighborhood professional, general commercial. On either side of this property along Edgewood and Terry, you have commercial zoning, which actually encroaches further into the neighborhood than what this property will be once it's rezoned. So you see a lot of commercial activity in this general area. Nothing has changed since the first reading on May 9th. We've gotten no calls or comments from the public. The only thing that's really taken place is that last week the assistant city manager and I met the applicant's arborist on site as they're beginning to work on their tree survey to meet our tree ordinance guidelines. So again, we bring this to you tonight for approval on second reading.
Thank you, Ms. McKenzie. And we did have discussion on this item at our last meeting, but I'll open it back up to any questions or comments that anyone on council would have. Ms. Lockridge.
This is in my ward. I have not received any calls or any kind of requests that it not be done. I move that we go ahead and adopt this.
We have first by Ms. Lockridge. Second by Mr. John Roberts. Further questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously on the second and final reading. Our next item of new business is second reading of ordinance 2209 to annex and zone to a PDD, which is a planned development district, approximately 19 acres located at the corner of East River Street and Plantation Road. Ms. Mr. McEwen.
And on this one as well, we have an update per our discussion at the last council meeting, the May the 9th council meeting. And so the PDD document has been amended to include that in section M, and Mr. McKenzie will go over that for you.
Yes, thank you. Again, this application is to construct up to 152 townhouse units on this 19 acres. That's about 8 units per acre. And the requested zoning is PDD, Plan Development District. You have that document in your package. Again, it goes over specific details regarding the development of that piece of property. And as Mr. McEwen mentioned, at the May 9th meeting, you did approve it on first reading, but you did request that the applicant add some language in there regarding having a left and right egress lane turning out from the development onto Plantation Road. And they did add that language in the PDD document. It actually reads, at the primary entrance, there will be 1 ingress and 2 egress lanes, a left turn and a right turn onto Plantation Road from the Nevitt Townhouse development. So they did add that in there, and no other changes have been made to it since you last heard it on May 9th. And again, we bring this to you for approval on second reading.
And we'll note too that the tree ordinance does apply here, and it's referenced in the PDD document.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Ms. Roberts, Jeff Roberts.
This is in the seat that I serve, seat 3, and we're seeing exceptional growth on the eastern side of the city, and we noted that in our recent retreat. It's not all going northward, but it's spreading in all directions, really, not just eastward. But I want to explain why I requested this left-right egress. I think it's a reasonable request, and it has just good implications for doing so. And I think you're going to find Plantation Road is going to be a cut-through to get back to 29, which is an up-and-coming corridor into the city. And you're going to see even more improvements on that 29 corridor. So that was my reasoning. It wasn't to be difficult or punitive, but I think it's just for a minimal amount of effort, it could serve a very good purpose.
And I'll add too, we appreciate the developers working with us on that, of course, and
Absolutely, I
working
do.
to consider that and amend the document. And of course, we appreciate their investment in the city.
Yeah, we appreciate our developers, right, and we consider you partners. So I wanted to explain why I requested that, and with that, I would move that we move forward with annexing and zoning this into the PDD plan development.
First by Mr. Jeff Roberts.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lockridge. Any further discussion or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously on the second and final reading. We have one more item of old business, and that item is to request consideration of an ordinance to rezone College Park townhouses and an adjacent lot off of Old Williamston Road from a PDD, a Planned Development District, to RM18 multifamily residential. Ms. McEwen.
This item was a continued item from City Council from December 2021. At the time, there just wasn't a lot of information from Anderson University as far as the details of the development and what it looked like. And there were some questions from a couple of council members regarding what it would actually look like as far as the master plan. That's included in the packet, and Mr. McKenzie will go over the details of that and the master plan as well.
Very good, thank you. Yes, Anderson University is seeking to rezone. There's 2 pieces of property, and they both are currently zoned PDD, Planned Development District. They're requesting to rezone it to RM18 multifamily residential, which is consistent with many of their other campus properties. RM18 allows university-related uses, is one reason why they typically opt for the RM18 zoning. The current zoning of PDD, Planned Development District, the way it's worded, doesn't really fit for what their development plan is, although it does allow multifamily and single-family uses. Mr. McEwen mentioned this came before you in December. You had several questions, so it was continued to a future meeting because you had some questions regarding some specifics like the number of units, the number of students in those units, the number of parking spaces, the overall layout and how it flowed in terms of connectivity throughout that. So they went back to the drawing board and they provided a revised master plan that you see in your package. And I believe it is answering many of the questions, but I'll go over it real quickly, what we see from a bird's eye view, a total of 89 units containing a maximum of 504 beds, or 504 students, if you will be on the entire 21.7 acres. And that's if each bedroom in the units are double occupancy. They include 533 parking spaces, serving the students and their visitors. What's interesting is when we look at development and zoning, we typically look at it from a number of units perspective, from a density perspective with the land development. With the university, they look at basically heads and beds. They look at the number of students in these units. So although they're different, there's just different ways of approaching how we look at this. But that's that part regarding the density. A lot of this land is in a floodplain, and there's some topography issues. So what you see is pretty much all they can develop, because on the lower end, it's tough to develop, and that's where that multi-use path is located, as you can see on the drawing. To get a little more specific with each piece of property, again, it's two pieces. One is 4.7 acres, and according to the PDD document right now, it allows up to 72 units on that 4.7 acres. Right now, they've already developed this over the past few years, and there's 29 units on the site. They're currently constructing 12 more, so that will be a total of 41 units on the site. So it's a good bit less than what is allowed, but again, with these 41 units, there could be a maximum of 200 students with double occupancy in these units. And that's on the 4.7 acre piece of property. For the larger 17 acres on the southern side coming toward town, it's not developed right now, but the current PDD language allows either single family or multifamily uses, but not to exceed 80 units. And as requested by the applicant, they are looking to add 48 units in this phase, so less than the 80 units. Again, this equates to adding 304 students in this section if they max it out with double occupancy in each room. So again, looking back, a total of 89 units is what will be on the entire site. That'll be 504 students roughly, and 533 parking spaces on the site. One question that came up during the discussion back in December was connectivity. You can see that there's a couple of ways to get around the development internally, so that helps with the flow. It also makes it look like it's one contiguous piece of property that works together. Since that meeting in December, they did provide these additional details, and which we as a staff think that pretty much answers what the City Council was asking. So we recommend we move forward with this on first reading. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. The applicant is also in attendance if you have any specific questions for them.
And Mayor and Council, let me add just a few more things that, this is a master plan here. I understand it's not the complete engineered document. So it will be run by building codes and also the fire marshal. One thing that I identified when looking at this within our packet was that as you come down on the new development piece and even the Trojan Lane, if you were at the bulb outs there and the parking spaces within the circumference of the cul-de-sac, that poses an issue for our fire trucks. If you're personally driving one, it would be very, very difficult to get the ladder truck in a circle around that without nicking a car or hitting the bulb out or just flat running out of it. The other thing, you would have to back all the way back out. If you couldn't make that turn. So again, we have a code on that on the radius. I would see here though, probably the fire marshal is going to require the removal of those spaces within the circumference. I just don't think that's going to work out. Mr. Roberts, I know you had a couple comments too, but that's something that we identified earlier, and as it goes through the plan process and it's reviewed by our fire marshal and building codes, we'll confirm those.
Thank you. Good points. Any comments? Got some, Jeff? Go right ahead.
David, is that for both cul-de-sacs? Removing parking?
Both cul-de-sacs. I wrote down Trojan Lane the other day. I don't remember them actually putting this in there yet. I know they can confirm that for us, but I don't remember the bulb outs and you can see them in the Trojan Lane one too. But right. And then in the additional one here in gray, you can see that, and that's just really impractical for fire response.
Well, in no particular order, well, since we're talking about parking, we have a total of 533 spaces, a total of 504 students. So if you assume that every student has a car, that gives you 29 extra spaces. I don't know if that's enough or not. It may be. But I was going to make the point, if you had to gain more parking, where would you get it? And the only place I see that you might get it is on the southern end, just below those yellow units to the bottom right.
I kind of thought about that too. I guess if you're the last person to get there that night, you're going to park off campus probably and have to catch a shuttle, I would
You may
think.
impact, right?
But again, those numbers you just mentioned, that don't take into account of removing all these parking spaces out of the cul-de-sacs, then where's that gonna leave you?
That's
Then
true. That's
you
true.
may be 500 to 3 or whatever the number of beds versus the same number of spaces, it may be equal, because I think there's like 20 spots in here.
Yeah. My question is this, if you had to get more parking, where would it go? So consider that. And I'm not gonna sit here and do your design, but I'm raising these questions. When I look at the convergence on the southern, the only ingress and egress shown on this, I know there are two, but this is the one shown. There are 5 streets, roads, whatever, that come together right there. You've got both directions of Old Williamston Road, you've got Fairmont, you've got Trammell, and then of course you've got the entrance, exit into this development. I would like to have a further conversation about that whole ingress and egress right there. I see that as a problem, and I think it can be improved. Mr. McKenzie checked into Trammell Road. That's a county road, and there's actually a triangular sliver between Trammell and Old Williamston that is part of right-of-way. Is that correct? Correct. All right, so there's an opportunity there to correct all of that, and I think to improve it, make it better. But you got, y'all know these 5-way intersections you come across around every now and then? They're a mess. And that's about what you've got there. I have always questioned the sight distance on that upper drive. I rode out there today just to get my mind around everything that was going on, and as I was coming out, I didn't see the car. I didn't have an accident, but it got on me pretty quickly right there, and I had to get out a little quicker than I intended.
Which is that the Trojan Lane? upper part?
It's even above, beyond
Above
that.
that.
It's not shown on.
Yeah. College Park Drive, yeah.
I have always questioned whether you have the proper sight distance there. You may, but I question it. I'm requesting a traffic study if we can do that, because I think speed limit, whether you have proper sight distance, and that 5-way ingress egress, I think both can be improved. I think maybe we even have a bit of a safety issue there myself. But one proposal is to cut off Trammell Road, maybe dead end it, cul-de-sac it, widen out that entrance, maybe look at left-right egress. After all, we've got 500 and some odd spaces in there. And potentially turning lanes, a center turning lane on Old Williamston Road. It gives a chance for cars to get out of the travel lane and then turn in. So I would like to further study that, and that would be one of my requests. I like the connectivity. You've got the Trojan Transit. I think that's going to play a key role in moving these students in and out. I noticed the trail. I love that. But I did have a question. Does that trail continue across the creek, or does it dead end right there? Is there a possibility for a footbridge right there? So I know I've thrown a lot out there, but if you'd like to answer, please do.
Hey, I'm Jay Blake from Anderson University. They're doing a study on all the connectivity of that trail, going over to the nature park and to Heritage. Right now, I don't know if you go back to y'all, we only touch in one place. That this property doesn't actually touch another it touches, but there's not a pathway to any of our other property right now.
So the
But
trail
there-
would dead end right there.
Do I,
The trail would dead end right there.
at this moment, but right now they're studying where we could take it to get on to, like the nature park we own is
Right.
across the road
Yeah.
and right around we touch our other property, but it's only at a point. There's not a walkway through there right now.
Okay, I see. It'd be nice if you could continue that.
So that's what we're studying, is finding a way to keep it going to our other property.
Would you be willing to go back to AU and request a traffic study for these entrances?
Yeah, I can do that.
I would like to see that.
Yeah, I can.
I think we can improve both of them. And I welcome your comments. Anybody?
Anyway, yes, all good comments. Anything else?
I'll make a comment down here. You know, it's evident to me from what I know about Anderson University that there's certainly a need for additional student housing. As a student there, I can tell you this is a little bit unique. It's a little further off the main campus, but it's not uncommon for students to have to park a little bit further away and take the Trojan Transit. So I think even if we did ask, based on fire code, to eliminate some of the parking spaces, you know, I still think a 1-to-1 ratio is probably pretty common in this situation, because right now I believe a lot of the students that still want to somewhat live on campus or near, they're having to live in apartments.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with Councilman Roberts over here about, you know, taking a look at what makes sense from a entrance and exit standpoint, but the need and the continuity of College Park 2, I definitely think would be an asset for the university, and it would certainly look good if we can figure that out.
Well, good comments. I do know that I hear from my niece all the time about having to park at the sports complex to get to a dorm on campus. And I would imagine, you guys run that from what hours to what hours, do you know?
The Trojan Transit,
Yep.
they're running it now all the way to like 2 in the morning.
2 in the morning?
So it runs, pretty much all the time.
That's what I was thinking. Any other comments, questions? So it's here for us on this reading.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Harvey?
I'd like to make a motion, we approve it and, you know, work together to solve some of the challenges. I mean, you know, I think my fellow Councilman Roberts, on the far end, you know, it's just more safety, you know, their kids getting in and out on Old Williamston Road, which I know you're utmost concerned about their safety. If we can figure out a way to make it a little bit more fluent with traffic and safe, it'd be a great thing. But I'd like to make a motion to pass this on first reading.
Mayor, I'll second that motion. You know, we talk a lot about our premier partners, and obviously Anderson University is one of those, and even evidenced by, you know, their conversations with us in December and going back and some of those adjustments. So Councilman Roberts the Roberts near me brought up some really good points, and obviously, you know, I know staff always relays those and works closely with the applicant,
So we have a first by Mr. Harvin and a second by Mr. Newton. Any further discussion? And Dr. Thompson? We have
To approve this,
with, I think,
we have 2 more weeks.
I think overall it's the safety. There's a couple, I mean, the overall arching would be safety, whether that's fire safety, transportation, traffic. So with those caveats, passing it on second reading with an idea that Mr. McEwen and his team will continue to have discussions with AU in regards to safety.
Correct. Passing on first reading with continued discussions.
Yes, first reading. So we had first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously on the first reading. Only item of new business is request consideration of an engineering contract for Lindley Park. Ms. McEwen.
Okay, you know, this project, of course, is large in scope. Great project coming out of our Recreation Master Plan of 2017. a project that we've identified strategically as an improvement for the city. Mr. Andrew Strickland, our assistant manager, will be managing this project, and so he'll go over the details of this. Mr. Strickland.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. Mayor, Council, this is an item we discussed on Friday, this past Friday at your retreat. You'll recall that in 2019, the city engaged Goodwin Mills, Kaywood, GMC to do some preliminary engineering for the design of Lindley Park, which would include some traffic improvements for kind of a problematic intersection between Upper Lindley, what everybody knows as Upper Lindley and Lower Lindley, Glenwood Avenue, North Avenue, kind of where that all kind of comes together there. It would also include some stream improvements, stormwater improvements to remove the concrete flume throughout the park, the length of the park. That'll have some wonderful stormwater benefits and create a nice amenity as well for the community. But it also hinges on really good park improvements that were called out in the 2017 Parks and Rec Master Plan. Notably relocating the baseball fields from Lindley Park to the rec complex expansion, which is about to be done. About 100,000 square feet of new multi-purpose turf is being installed, not today, because it's a swamp today, but it's being installed right now. So hopefully be done sometime this summer, and that'll be able to shift. We'll be able to shift some of that programming from Lindley Park to there and give us a chance to really upfit Lindley Park the way that the northern part of Upper Lindley Park has been upfitted as well. Councilman Stewart, head of the meeting, just brought up a good point. Because of our plan to continue and expand the Whitney Creek Greenway through this park and connect it with the rec complex and beyond in the future, we will need to make some improvements, some traffic and pedestrian improvements at Malden Street intersection as well. So that will be a part of this also. So the overall fee that I'm going to ask you and recommend that you adopt for this project is to award this contract to GMC at a not to exceed amount of $350,000. That will include a lump sum engineering bid as well as architectural fees for bathroom and picnic shelter. And so those are yet to be determined based on what the design ends up being. Most notably, I'd say with this project, we will, and GMC will coordinate this as part of their contract, some public hearing components as well, just to make sure that the neighborhood knows what's going on here, and that the city at large knows what's going on, and they have an opportunity to provide some feedback, tell us what they want to see at the park, what sort of finishes, what sort of playground equipment, and hopefully make this thing the most successful project it can be. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. It is a very exciting project. We did talk in depth during our recent retreat about this project, but I'll open it up for anything else that we might have discussion with in regards to the park or the request for the fee. Ms. Lockridge.
This is in my ward. I'm thrilled about being able to go ahead and getting this done. We sort of do have two different parks. We have Upper Park and Lower Park. The Lower Park doesn't quite have the quality or the pizzazz that the Upper Park has. It's a great, also, that area that you were talking about with all the roads coming in, there's a name for it in our community. We call it Spaghetti Junction. And it really is a lot of spaghetti coming into one road. And by having that roundabout there, it would make it so much easier for people to get on the road, go around, whatever they're doing. That would be a great improvement to that. And then making that park for the community and the whole community, letting everybody come in that needs it. If you will come up there in the spring of the year, when the proms are going on or when things, everybody comes to Upper Lindley Park to have pictures made because it's so beautiful. And it's and we're very proud of that. And we just let everybody enjoy themselves and take the pictures and do whatever they need to do. I'm so excited about it. I want to go ahead and say that we need to go ahead and request this award for the design, an engineering contract for Lindley Park. So I'm making a motion that we do so.
Thank you. We have a first by Mr. Lockridge.
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion?
How quickly can this be done?
So we really want to make sure that the public hearing schedule falls in line with when folks are in town. So it may not kick off until maybe the end of the summer. They'll do a lot of work. It'll take about 4 months to get through design, and then we'll move straight to construction right after that.
Good. Any other questions? First, second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Strickland. We're at the end of our agenda, but and very productive. A short meeting, but a very productive meeting. Before we close, I want to turn the floor over to Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to make a public statement as a individual member of City Council, not speaking on the body of this council or the mayor, but regarding South Fayette Elementary School, the closing of South Fayette Elementary School. And as I talk about it for a few moments, Councilman Roberts, I want you to think about Nevitt Forest Elementary School in your area. Rick, think about Concord in your neighborhood. Luis, Midway, and Calhoun. We became an all-American city many years ago because of the collaboration that we have here in Anderson between the city, the county, the school district, and many, many other partners. And we do that by working together hand in hand, making sure that we do what's in the best interest for this community. But for many years, kids in our neighborhood, in our inner city neighborhoods, have been bussed away, and they're still being bussed away in 2022, and it's getting ready to be bussed some more. In my lifetime, I've saw Kennedy Street School, Cleo Bailey Elementary School, McCants, as we know it on Whitner Street, McDuffie High School, and West Franklin School, all closed. And they're all inner city neighborhood schools, city schools. And now we're looking at South Fayette Elementary School. I was given the courtesy by the school district leadership to be told about the closing of the school 2 hours before it went to the school board meeting, and that, you know, the deal was going to be done. But, you know, from my take on that meeting, it wasn't too much. It wasn't more or less a telling me what's going to happen, but it's more or less saying, hey, we just don't want to have, you know, help us out. We don't want to have protests. We don't want to have things like we had during the COVID pandemic where everybody came out to the district office, help us out with that. And they gave us the numbers, the number of kids that were going to be displaced over at South Fayette Elementary School. Well, those numbers that we were given, that I was given that day, were incorrect. You know, I presented some new numbers, which is probably double the number of students that was given to me, back to the leadership, and as to this day, still haven't gotten an answer back from the leadership of where those kids are going to be bused to and how that transition is going to be made. You know, it's sad to see inner city neighborhoods, especially in our city, get closed down when leadership, whether it's at the school board level, wants everybody to think that, you know, people are moving out of the city. You know, people are moving out. But, you know, like Councilman Roberts just said, we're really growing around our city. You know, got the river, you know, all the stuff down River Street, all the neighborhoods we're annexing in. There's going to be a need for elementary schools close in the city. And you've got an elementary school like South Fayette that is a perfect elementary school for kids that could serve the growing population that we're getting ready to embark upon. School District 5 wants us to believe that, and they'll probably do it, they're going to repurpose this building, and it won't become a vacant building like some of our schools that we've seen in the past. But what does that mean? You know, there's a big difference between repurposing it and having it as an active elementary school. Again, think about the schools in your neighborhoods that I just mentioned. If that school was repurposed, how would it affect your neighborhood if it wasn't a vibrant school? Because schools are a pillar of a community. It's a lifeline of a community. And what, in actuality, School District 5 has done is taken a lifeline out of one of our neighborhoods. They've done it for the second time. One with the McDuffie High School, which they repurposed, and now they're doing it with South Fan Elementary School. And as history serves us correctly, they will continue removing our schools out of our city. And so I just, I don't know if everybody has read the articles that came out in the paper. South Fan Elementary School, has been, was the first African-American school here in Anderson that served African-American kids. It has been there for 150 years, in that area. And I would challenge you to read the article, speak with your council, speak with, your partners and kind of find out what's going on. But to me, it's a travesty that we're closing another school in an area where we as a city are trying to do neighborhood revitalization and strengthen our neighborhoods, not take away from our neighborhoods. So I appreciate your time, but I just thought it was very important that, I make this public statement about my displeasure of South Fan Elementary School, and I'll repeat it again. This is not, the opinions of Mayor Terrence Roberts or anybody on this council. This is Councilmember Tony Stewart, who represents this area, and we have 3 other council members who are at large that represents the area as well, but they can have their own opinions about it if they choose to make those. But this is an opinion of myself, and I just felt like it was important that it be said publicly tonight. So again, Mayor, I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well said. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First by Mr. Newton,
Second.
second by Mr. Martinez. I thought for a second y'all wanted to stay a little longer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We stand adjourned. Yeah.